Wait, hold up. We've done this before. Let's try something new. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today's date is January 11th, 2021. As always, I'm Bill. I'm joined here with Steve.
Yo.
And reoccurring third guy, Michael.
Happy New Year.
Hello, reoccurring third guy. That was a quick witty.
Reoccurring third guy.
Reoccurring third guy. It's like one of those unlockable characters like Mortal Kombat. Just the black question mark. You have to unlock him.
So, since the last time that you were here, Michael, have you
Yes.
encountered anything new or interesting? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year?
Oh, it was great. I got Iron Man VR for PlayStation.
Awesome.
Yes.
Dude, have you played it?
No, but I got
it's insane.
a PlayStation 5 now. I somehow managed to beat the system with the bots, so that sounds super exciting.
You're a 60-year-old guy getting excited about playing
it's fun.
Iron
We
Man.
just had the
VR.
conversation last week about our...
That's great. You're flying and you're
Doesn't he
shooting
too
things.
have a... What kind of car you drive?
He's got a CRV.
A man van. All right.
He's got the man van.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's got the bigger man van, too. He's got a pilot.
Oh. Okay. That's...
Yeah, that's...
We all drive man vans. He's got a CRV, I got a CRV, you got a CRV.
Oh, yeah. The man van.
Actually, it goes in like generations too. Like yours, and then his comes after yours. Mine comes after his.
Yeah, and then I have a friend that just got the 2020. So it's like I'm just watching the perpetual growth of the man van.
That's
But
so
that
funny.
VR, now, I saw, like, for Star Wars, I saw, like, all these cool, like, VR setups. Break it down. Like, how does it work? Because I don't know how VR works. Like, do you just plug it into the system?
Yeah,
and then,
there's a separate box
okay.
that you plug into your existing system.
Okay.
And you plug the unit that goes on your head into that box.
And that box plugs into the system. So
Yeah,
that's, like,
it goes
the way
through that box. And then when you put the glasses on and have little headphones, you can either get a set of headphones or you can use little earphones there. The sound comes through there, and
Literally everything you see.
everything you see is
the world.
360. And then you have the two controllers.
Now, how do you walk? Because I see those videos where people, like jump and they actually, like, jump, like, do things and walk.
You have to stay within the play zone.
Okay.
There's a camera that picks up your movement.
Yeah, it's the camera.
Now, if you're walking in a forward direction, how do you continue to walk forward without really walking too far forward? Like, if you're walking in place, it just walks for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes you to the next spot. You use the spot and you start walking towards it and it takes you there. And then you click yours and it takes you over here. And then when you're flying, you're just flying. Everything's moving towards you. You're standing in place.
Yeah.
But you're flying, you're holding your things down like Iron Man. And then you're flying and it's like you're just going faster and faster towards something. And you got to put the things out to stop. You know,
That sounds so awesome.
it
Yo,
is.
the first time he played it, no bullshit. I wish I would have got it on video. It looked like fucking Michael Jackson from the Smooth Criminal video.
Oh my God, where he was like
he's
leaning in
like-
and stuff. I can't believe I just had a 60-year-old man school me on VR. Like, that's awesome. That goes to show you how crazy VR
It's
is.
really, it's a lot of fun.
Well, because my sister, she got this game. It's called Phasmophobia. It blew up from some people playing on Twitch. Basically, you're a paranormal hunter. Like, you have to get all this equipment, and it's from a first person. You can only see the hands. It is the creepiest game I've ever played. The sound effects, the dead silence when you're in a house, and the creaking noises, and when a ghost actually hunts you. And your whole thing is you got to find like orbs. You got to find if you can get fingerprints, figure out what kind of ghost it is, get camera vision of it. They have a VR version of it. So we've been playing it just on a computer with a mouse and a keyboard.
Yeah.
The VR version of it, from what it showed and from what you're telling me on like how VR works,
Yeah.
I'd probably crap myself. And I'm all for horror games. Like, that's what I look for, is try to scare the shit out of myself. And I saw Oculus, I think it was the one that works.
Yeah.
It pairs up with that specific game.
Facebook has the Oculus.
The Oculus,
yes,
yeah, because that's the one specific. So obviously there's something different than for the PlayStation.
This one is
PlayStation
made,
It is
VR.
PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to probably look into that because I saw that Star Wars game and it looked pretty dope.
yeah. In the one scene that there was a ghost of somebody flying around in front of you, and you could see it and coming at you and coming from all different angles.
It's cool.
It's really
I gotta
cool.
check it out.
It's really cool. That game you were playing, you're talking about the paranormal equipment in front of you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found
You pick up like it even has like a ER reader, ED reader or something.
Yeah.
Where, like the lights blink to a certain level.
I have all that stuff.
Oh, you do?
My wife and
so
I.
yeah.
My wife and I are amateur ghost hunters.
So you have like Sage for like smudging
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
We've been to all kinds of haunted
Okay,
places.
you would love this game.
Yeah, okay,
You would.
cool.
He's been to
love
the
this
hotel.
game. What hotel?
The Shining Hotel.
You know,
The
Stanley-
Overlook. What is
Not the Overlook.
What's it called though?
We were actually out to the Stanley,
The Stanley. That's
where
it.
he went to, where he got where Stephen King got the idea for doing it in that haunted room at the Stanley. We were there. We actually flew out there to do a ghost hunt,
Yeah. Okay.
which is
That's
in the middle of the.
You have to. So Steam is the thing that you can download games from.
Yep.
That's where it is Phasmophobia. You will love that game.
My daughter will know how to
You
get it.
will 100% if you're like into that, because like I'm telling you, like I play a lot of horror games in my time, from like Resident Evil to like Dead Space. This game, just because of the sound effects, when you have a headset on and that's all you can hear, like you're hearing everything else. As soon as you walk into a building, it just goes to this like dead white noise, and you hear every little thing. And like when you have the reader going and you get to a certain room and it gets all the way to 5, you know it's about to start hunting. And there's like 8 different ghosts that, like, based on the clues you find, it narrows it in to tell you what ghost it is. And you have objectives. Like, you have to go turn on the water. If it's dirty water, you know, a spirit is in the, it's so good. Such a good game.
Yeah, it was a good Christmas. So not only was I a Ghostbuster, but I was also Freddy Krueger. And then I got to be Iron Man as well.
So you basically had a Halloween in your Christmas.
Yeah, I had a Halloween Christmas.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, and I was a Cenobite.
Oh yeah, you still have the box.
Yeah.
Careful with that thing. I'm going to say that every episode.
So, have you encountered anything new or interesting?
I'm just going to say a TV show that I stumbled upon. Showtime, I did a free trial because I'm trying to get Shameless in while I can.
Oh, yeah.
I love Shameless, and the last season's out. It's not really living up to expectation, but it's a good watch. But there's a show called Your Honor. Okay. Bryan Cranston is the main character. He plays a judge. The premise is his son accidentally kills a kid in a hit and run. The kid is actually the son of a real reputable mob boss in their town.
Oh, okay.
And Bryan Cranston finds out, and he's a circuit judge for criminal courts, and basically is trying to cover this up because he knows if this guy finds out, like, he's going to basically kill his whole family. And throughout the show, like, they use a patsy, someone to take the fall for it through some weird premise, can't expose that. Then that family starts suffering as a result. And I mean, it's just a very well-written show. Because Bryan Cranston, I mean, from Breaking Bad,
yeah,
I mean,
he's
just in
good,
general, he's
good actor.
very good in versatile roles, other than like what I knew him for, which was Malcolm in the Middle. That
Yeah.
was like his role.
Funny too.
Great role in that. But yeah, it's called Your Honor. It's on Showtime. It's through 7 episodes now.
Okay.
Very good show, though.
I'll have to check
Very
that
good
out.
show.
Obviously, with the recent passing of Leslie West, you start seeing more and more videos surfacing. As it happens with every other musician that dies, you find the uncover these videos that never existed before. And I'm part of, it's no surprise, I'm a part of like a million Van Halen pages on Facebook. And there was a video that came up of Leslie West playing Mississippi Queen with Van Halen, like circa like 92, 94.
Mid-90s, it said. Yeah. No specific date.
Yeah, and it's just awesome. Like, and it's one of the only times where you can hear another guitar player playing with Eddie Van Halen, where it's like, okay, this fits.
Yeah,
this could work.
It does. Yeah, the solos he plays over.
Oh,
are,
yeah,
like,
dude, it's
perfect.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously there's certain songs where you hear Sammy Hagar playing guitar, and like it works. But then you hear like Leslie West, or you hear like, when he was playing like with Brian May and shit, it's like, this really works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian May is one of those guitarists that really doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah. Well, it's because he got overshadowed with the whole Freddie Mercury
Of course,
thing.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
very true.
Brian May's definitely an underrated guitar player. No one ever talks about him.
I love the meme where it says this is the best tagline you can get. They were interviewing Brian May for something, and they put up his name with his credentials.
Yeah.
And it said rock hero and astrophysicist. This guy has a degree in he's an astrophysicist.
What?
Yeah. So it's like, imagine that title. Like, who are you? What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a rock hero. I was in Queen, and I'm an astrophysicist. I could invent the flux capacitor.
Call me
at this point.
Dr. Brian May.
Yeah, right?
That's Dr. May to you. So, Brian, that's Dr. May.
That's awesome.
That's funny. But, yeah, so 2021, as we explained in our episode last week, 2020, we're going to try to completely skip over
Yes.
and not mention it all if we don't have to. And, yeah. So let's ring in the new year right, I guess.
Other than this is kind of a continued episode from a previous episode when we get into the later discussion.
Yeah, this is the only thing that's going to be a continuation.
We might
from
have some
2020.
bits that may be relevant to past year, but
Yeah,
we'll continue to move forward.
exactly.
Better, faster, stronger.
On this day in music history.
On this day in music history, January 11th, 1992, Nirvana's Nevermind hits number 1 in America, unseating Michael Jackson's Dangerous. It's funny because we talked about that last week because of the lack of, manufacturing through Geffen. They weren't able to break through until that following Christmas year.
Yep.
And then, that season, because it came out in September. So it was like that Christmas leading into the following year.
Yeah.
That's when Nevermind finally took hold. Like, it took months for it to really catch on. And once it did, man, that was like wildfire.
Oh,
That
yeah.
album to this day is always going to be looked at as like something that really put a lot of impact on music.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Jackson's Dangerous, I mean, to me personally, I can't really seat that above Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, to throw off Michael Jackson as that band, I mean, Nirvana obviously had never charted at that point. And they come out with this album and people were probably like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's awesome.
I'm guessing probably within a couple hours of each other, Nirvana make their first appearance on Saturday Night Live. They leave a mark. After performing their hit, Smells Like Teen Spirit, they play Territorial Pissings for their second song. Then trash their instruments and anything else they can find on stage.
In typical Nirvana fashion.
Yep.
Yes.
This would not be the first nor last time gear would be destroyed.
Not even close.
But could you imagine that? Like you're debuting on Saturday Night Live the same day you knock Michael Jackson off the charts.
And that's how you act. It's awesome.
Yeah, and
That's
then you
what was
just
needed.
destroy all your shit.
And that's the thing about Nirvana, because they were like in that tail end before record companies really started to limit like creative control from the artists themselves. And that was a big thing that they struggle with, obviously, going forward and releasing, Utero and that whole creative control. I mean, the whole first batch of recordings that they did had to basically be tossed because they felt like it wasn't,
Good
they
enough.
said Steve Albini's mixing was just like, this isn't going to be good, which is a shame.
Idiots.
1998, Nike debuts its I Can commercial, introducing the British band The Verve to a wide American audience with the song Bittersweet Symphony. We all know that song.
Mm-hmm.
The song becomes the band's only hit in the States, which is bittersweet because they had to sign away royalties to the song to get the publishing rights to the string sample. Wow. God, that's
Man,
sad.
I saw what they did there again with Bittersweet.
Yeah, you get it?
Man, they're really subtle.
Those, those zingers are really... How the doors broke on through.
That sucks.
That is really bittersweet.
Just for one sample in the song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
So, last thing here in music history is in 2016, in the day after David Bowie's passing, his music videos on Vivo are viewed 51 million times, shattering the previous record held by Adele after she released Hello. Most of the views are for Bowie's last two videos, Lazarus.
Lazarus.
A little dyslexic in there.
Yeah.
You got it.
I got hit with a Twisted Tea earlier. And Black Star, which portend his death.
See, this is one of those things when we talked about, especially last episode with, the artists we lost and stuff. Sometimes it is good in the sense of like the access now people will look for and like trying to search this artist and especially after Van Halen. Like Van Halen blew up.
Yep.
again. You know, and David
Knocked
Bowie
WAP off
even
the charts,
so.
son.
Yeah, David Bowie even so. I think it's kind of important from time to time because you saw that whole thing with, obviously when Post Malone collaborated with Ozzy Osbourne, people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, it's good."
You mean
that-
when he found Ozzy?
That's what I'm saying. It's good that Post is giving this old man an opportunity to like, and I'm like, ugh. But then what happened is then people are able to do their research. Like the person speaks for themselves. Now, David Bowie to me has always been a greatest hits artist. I'm not a huge album guy. Like Ziggy Stardust is great, Diamond Dogs is great, but overall, you know,
I've never been a giant David
that's what I'm
Bowie
saying.
fan.
His albums front to back are not as digestible as I would say for like some other artists. But it's cool when you see stuff like that. It's people still listen, and I think
Yeah,
that's really
absolutely.
important that a lot of these artists don't just disappear.
David Bowie's to me is one of the greatest artists of all time. He managed to reinvent himself so many different times. As the times changed, he changed along with the times
Yeah,
and became popular again. Then he kind of faded away. Then he remade himself again, becomes popular again during the 80s with the suit look.
Yeah.
He was one of the original glam rockers.
oh yeah, 100%. And
Yeah,
Him and Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Yep.
He was so pioneering in some of the things that he did. That's the way I feel about him.
That's what I give a
grown
lot
up
of
with
credit
him.
to. Yeah, is because how you just put it in perspective, especially is not a lot of artists can adapt. You know what I mean? To change their sound and it be successful. I think that was like super important because you're right. There's so many different hits from David Bowie, and if you listen to them, you can like hear the total differences in his sound, and he was still able to.
Well, how many other
stay
artists
relevant.
could collaborate with Trent Reznor?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, he goes all the way back to Space Odyssey with the one of the first artists using the Mellotron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rick Wakeman.
He was one of the
playing
first ones to
Mellotron.
use the stylophone also.
And yeah, it's the way he went through and he created the character of Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
Which is kind of original, this rock and roll
concept.
His character, and following that through to the stage show, and just over and over again, and it's pretty amazing. Amazing
concept
career.
albums was not really a thing until
No.
that point, and that was one of those like very first. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
He
true.
created these characters, and that's always had great music. He was a great songwriter.
I think the thing with me with Bowie is his voice. I can never get past his
very
voice.
I
It's
enjoy
English,
it.
very English.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and then that's the thing. There's a lot of artists like I know people that hate Maynard James Keenan's voice, and that's really what makes that band for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about his voice that just I don't know. Not saying that it necessarily turns me off from listening to him, but I don't know. I come from a different school. Mm-hmm. Like Ozzy and David Lee Roth, in my opinion, are like the greatest vocalists ever. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but they're good.
Yeah, I get what I get what you get at.
Definitely not Dave. So, the last time you were here, Michael, we dispelled, or I don't really know if dispelled is the right word, but we kind of shed some light on Rolling Stone magazine, and we pretty much let everyone know our opinions on them. And if you listen to the show and you listen to the last episode that Michael was on, you know now that Rolling Stone is run by a bunch of uneducated, uncultured hipsters.
Elites,
Yeah.
music elites, you can call them.
Now, during that topic, Michael, you had brought up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, it's no secret that we hang out outside of the podcast. Like, we just don't converge in this room, and then this is the only time we see each other. Me and Michael were talking about Rolling Stone magazine, and he said, there has to be a link between Rolling Stone and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Turns out they were started by the same people. Rolling Stone, if I remember this correctly, because I'm not going to read off Wikipedia. I'm trying to exercise my brain. Rolling Stone magazine was bought by Penske Media Corporation. So Penske owns I forget. They own like a shit ton of companies.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is owned by Atlantic Records, which is a subsidiary of Warner Music Group, which is a subsidiary of Time Warner,
Yes.
who owns Viacom and pretty much everything else.
Yeah. They're one of those
So-
companies, if you boiled everything down, you can say that everything is owned by like 6 companies in the entire world.
Yes.
Exactly.
Everything we see in here,
There's like, 5 or
there's
6
five or six companies that
literally own everything.
Disney, Viacom,
Everything.
they control what we see in here.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly. So, actually, this is something I just came up with like right now, right on the spot. I now know why MTV sucks and VH1 sucks because of Time Warner. So I think really Time Warner is the real enemy of the music industry.
Wouldn't surprise me to make that a factual statement.
Can we come to the general consensus of that?
Yeah,
I
I
want to get this shit on tape.
Yeah, no, because this is the sad thing about it. When we talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially,
Yeah.
there's always this pedestal that when an artist gets elected into it, like it gets treated as it's like a sports Hall of Fame. Like sports Hall of Fame situations, like the players that are getting inducted in there have a steady track record of why they're in there.
Yeah.
Like you can credit each artist, and the order that they get inducted is very important as well for eligibility standards. The guys that didn't make it on the first ballot, waited a few years, but eventually they get in there.
Yeah.
You see some artists that I don't deny that they should be in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but when they get inducted, how they get inducted, and who wasn't inducted yet,
Yes.
that's what's really like the triggering effect to like, what the fuck is this?
Yep.
And
it kind of makes sense too, because it seems like the people that vote for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are also the same ones that vote for the 100 greatest guitar players.
Guitar players. That's obviously the most controversial aspect of any magazine anytime I see it come out, because of course I have the desire to look at it,
Yep.
whether it be on Google or in hard copy. And every time it's like when people, and I can attribute it back to sports, because you can make a list of the top whatever players, right? But that's usually narrowed down by defense, offense, running backs. You have a specific core of how you can narrow these top players.
Yeah.
For rock and roll magazines, when you narrow in something like top 100 guitars, all I'm looking at is talent. That's what comes to my head. There's no
Exactly.
explanation of how they're rating these people. I think talent alone, isolated talent, not the band that they were in, not the music that they made, but just what they were a part of and how talented they specifically
Exactly.
were is what should be unless you have a huge description in there, like this is how we rated these people.
Exactly, which they don't.
Yeah.
But to bring Michael into this conversation, you're the only one of us three that's actually been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give our listeners not like a complete rundown, but if they were to expect to go, what would they be seeing?
Well, the first thing is, I was going expecting to see something grander than what it was. Okay, so it was kind of a letdown to me. But as I look back on it, I try to realize what they're trying to do. We talk about political, we talk about the media versus the fans. There's always been that media versus the fans. Mm-hmm. What the fans think is great and what the media thinks is great. And it always clashes. And the musical artists are always fighting the media, and there's always this clash. When you go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first of all, I think they put it in the wrong place. In Cleveland on the waterfront. It's not a very pretty place, but it's a beautiful building. It's like a half pyramid. It's got 7 floors. It's all open inside. When you say Hall of Fame, it's more like a museum.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more like a museum. If you want to see a bunch of rock and roll memorabilia, go to Hard Rock Cafe. Go to some of the big Hard Rock cafes. You'll see all the guitars on the walls. Clarence Clemens saxophones, Elvis's guitars, Elvis's Cadillac. You'll see John Bonham's drum set. You'll see all these things.
Does it cost money to go there?
Go
Yes.
to Hard Rock?
No, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Is it like,
It's expensive.
see, like that's why I wanted to bring that up, because you're bringing up Hard Rock Cafe. you can go in there
For
Just
free.
a restaurant, like
Right.
basically.
You could
That's-
literally walk in. You don't even need to order
Yeah.
food. You could probably
I
just
know that's
walk
what I'm
in.
saying.
But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is more like a museum.
Yeah.
It's showing you the history of rock and roll all the way back to the black blues,
Yeah.
Southern blues, and the original blues black guitar players. And as you walk through it, I think there's 3 different rooms that are showing movies. This movie loop, and explaining the history. And so it's more like a museum. It takes you through the different history of it. And it goes deep into the history. And then you go to Elvis, the Elvis area. And there's these permanent exhibits that take you through the history
That's cool.
of rock and roll.
Yeah, that's cool.
They have the actual recording studio. They took the whole thing, the board, everything, the room, everything from, I do believe it's where Motown, where they did, and it's in there, the actual recording studio. And they, like a museum, they rotate exhibits.
Okay.
Okay. So when you walk in, you're going to see the standard things that are always going to be there, but then they rotate other things.
I guess they give that more appeal, so you visit it more than once.
Yes.
Because paying I think Hard Rock Cafe is one of the best examples to bring up because of it is free and you're gonna see some stuff.
And they
what
rotate
is
their
the-
stock and items too.
Yeah, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the way it was to me as a kid was like the epitome of understanding legend. You know, and as I got older and saw more and more bands that I was very familiar with, especially the ones that didn't get inducted, then I started to realize that it's a media hype. That's
Yeah.
really what it does.
Yeah.
And now the way you're describing this, I mean, the fact that they rotate exhibits,
It's like a regular museum. If you go
Yeah.
down to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, they're going to have the
the
Egypt.
Viking exhibit this day.
Yeah, this-
and,
this
you
year
the
we're
Star
showing-
Wars this day.
Yeah, this year we're showing, Van Gogh's, and the next year we're going to show Egypt.
Yeah.
and it's the same kind of thing. They bring out and they rotate.
Yeah.
So we were to go in there, we were going to look for a bunch of Genesis stuff because previous time the singer had been there. There was a whole display where Peter Gabriel, because he was getting inducted that year.
Okay.
That display was gone. And it was replaced by a display of somebody else. And the only thing we found from Genesis was one guitar hanging. That was it. Oh, the Genesis, here's the one Rickenbacker guitar. I'm like, oh my God, that's it.
I had to go to
But
Cleveland.
it's so
I drove all the way to Cleveland.
So if you go in it thinking, I'm going to go see a bunch of cool stuff, memorabilia, rock, it's not really what you're going to see. You're going to see more of the history of how it started with the blues and when it got up to Elvis, got to that point, and then got into the Beatles, the British invasion, and then more into modern day pop, hip hop, all that kind of stuff.
So basically, you're kind of planning that trip around whatever exhibit is going to be happening
Yeah,
at that
exactly.
period, just like a museum. Like I think, I don't know if it was you or somebody I know. I think it was somebody I know, not you, but like the Franklin Institute did a Marvel exhibit.
Oh, I wanted to go to that.
Yeah, you remember
Yeah.
when they did that, right? Then they did the other one that you went to, the Rock exhibit or whatever.
Yeah,
I
that
thought.
was in Manhattan.
Manhattan. You went to that one. That was
Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Metropolitan. Yeah. So like that's it. I mean, I go to those specific places. I'll pay the money
Yeah.
only if the exhibit is enticing.
Oh, it was very enticing going up there.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because you think, like I said, that's supposed to be like the mecca of what I expect to experience in terms of if I want to go and see some visual representation of like memorabilia and art from like the history of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And you may have to take a look at advance on what's being featured.
Yeah, that's
like when we were there
around the exhibit.
It just happened to be we were playing there, and that's why we were there. We were playing at a club around the corner,
And you missed the Genesis exhibit.
right?
And then we got stuck with the one guitar. It's so
But-
fucked up.
the thing that it was ironic that we saw there. It was a tribute to the Rolling Stone magazine,
Of course. Of course it was.
and it had a representation of their first office. And
funny.
and there's 7 stories to the place.
Yeah.
But it's all, you can see all 7 stories, these escalators going up in this side of this pyramid. So it's a really cool building. but I think they could have done a better job and made more space.
Yeah, it didn't like blow you away.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
If they made it bigger, this design they used kind of didn't make good use of space. If they made it a larger building and they could have fit more and had more on display at the same time and not have to rotate as much.
Yeah.
But, you walk in and here's who we're inducting this year. I think you go up to the first floor and there's a whole area. We're inducting these bands and there's stuff from each of those bands. And then you start going through the history of rock and roll.
Yeah, I thought that, that would be a cool idea if they could space it out even by like decade. And each room is like its own exhibit dedicated to era, genre. Like you could do so much with that. And the amount of money they make, there's no excuse of why you couldn't make that something way more attractive.
I want to say like $30, $35.
That's what I'm saying. Even just with those proceeds, let alone everything else that they're a part of, I mean, they very easily could do the fans justice. Yeah. However, I have a quote here from respected Ozzy Osbourne on his take on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he actually, during an induction opportunity, wrote a letter, among a few others as well. But his letter kind of hit home in saying, just take our name off the list, save the ink, forget about us. The nomination is meaningless because it's not voted on by the fans. Right. It's voted on by the supposed elite for the industry and the media who've never bought an album or concert ticket in their lives. So their vote is irrelevant to me. Let's face it, Black Sabbath has never been media darlings. We're a people's band, and that suits us just fine. Yep. And I think that's the perfect idea of it, because these people aren't out there like... I mean, we talked about before, like you back in the day, ticket sales, having to drive to these places, be there on time, camping out, all the shit you had to go for just to get a ticket. Now it's more different in terms of how easy it is to get a ticket if it doesn't sell out, but the prices that I spend, that you spend, spend, all of us spend now just to go have an hour or two with some of our favorite musicians, whether it even be from fucking 400 yards away, like... out there in the rain and like all the shit that you go through to support these bands, and we don't even have a say in the matter of the opportunity to vote.
Like, there's been major gripes with everything that they've done in bands that they have, inducted well after they should have been, and then bands that they bring in way before they're supposed to. Like Nirvana was inducted like years before they were supposed to.
Well, the one I mentioned earlier with like Green Day, yet Def Leppard, Deep Purple, Ronnie James Dio, all still. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There should be an understanding of period, because even on paper, Def Leppard, Deep Purple, and Ronnie James Dio did a lot more for music than Green Day. I mean, it's not even...
No, come on.
And it's also the marketing thing.
Yeah.
The first floor, half, and I'm not lying, half of the first floor is the gift shop.
Oh. Yeah, that's disgusting. But this
half of it just goes on forever.
I gotta ask you though, Michael, did you buy something?
I got a t-shirt. And
you have to. That's what I'm saying. You have to.
I got a keychain, a mug, a t-shirt, and
Like, listen, you already drove out here.
Smart. That's like when they say, like, if you go into a convenience store, like a Wawa, a pack of cigarettes is never the price of a pack of cigarettes, because you get stuck standing in that line for a little bit. Oh, Snickers came out with a new candy bar. Let me just grab that. Oh, I could use a pack of gum. Like, that's what happens. That's why they do this shit.
Yeah, when you go up to the 7th floor and you come down the escalator,
you feel the obligation.
It lets you off right into the gift shop.
Right there. It's like Hershey Park when you used to go through the little tour and you're in the little chocolate factory and they got like, I got to buy this Hershey Kiss mug for no fucking reason other than to hang it on a wall and collect dust.
It's like when you get off a roller coaster and then you go right to the picture station.
I got to buy my picture now.
And it's just the gift shop. It's cool stuff. It's really cool stuff. And it's just lining the walls. You can get anything you want. And so it's commercialized. And it's the media versus the fans. The fans probably have a different idea of what they should be seeing.
Yep.
But the media just decides what's on display and how they're going to make the most money. But it's still a cool place to go. It really is. It's a cool place to go.
And it's one of those things, like, I would definitely... The way I see it is the best way you explained it, in that you're waiting for the right exhibit to really entice you to get out there. Secondly, it's one of those if I'm in the area thing. I never foresee, unless the Eagles are playing the Browns in a very important away game and I just have them, money to spend and I want to, I'm going to go to Cleveland to go see the Browns and the Eagles play. I guess while I'm out here,
It's right next to the stadium.
That's what I'm saying. So I guess it's a perfect setup.
It's 100 yards.
Yeah, so it's a perfect setup. While I'm watching these two shitty football teams play, sadly the Eagles are worse nowadays. I guess I'll stop at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why not?
For $35, I'd rather just cross the Walt Whitman,
Yeah.
go over to the Hard Rock Cafe
Or the Museum
in
of
Philly.
Modern Art or something.
No, I'd rather just go to the Hard Rock in Philly
Yeah.
and eat a cheeseburger next to Eddie Van Halen's tour guitar.
yeah, exactly.
Or around the wall from Jerry Cantrell's unplugged guitar.
But like I said, with the terms of marketing, his ticket was not $35 because he stopped at the gift shop.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
therefore,
you got a $50 t-shirt.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you spent. I probably spent $120.
Does it say Cleveland, Ohio on it anywhere? Because you know how the Hard Rock shirts will say like Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
underneath the logo?
No. It
Oh,
was
thank
just,
God.
It was just Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll
Hall
Hall
of
of Fame.
Okay, it doesn't say
Yeah,
like in
I-
small print. Cleveland, Ohio.
I gotta get. I gotta get a keychain for my wife. I gotta get one for my daughter. I gotta get a magnet for my sister. I gotta get. I say you gotta get.
Yeah. That's like when you go on a beach trip, you complain about how they charge money to go on the beaches, but then you find that one beach that's free but then you spend that much more on
Yeah.
fucking souvenirs on your way out.
They're like, man, Christmas isn't for another few months, but they got
Yeah.
a keyboard one. They
Yeah,
got
I
a
would get
keyboard
like
ornament. Oh my God.
I would get like one of those ships in a bottle when I would leave. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with that when I'm older? I don't even know where they are. That's great. I really, kind of just to sum with this up, and Michael, you're like giving the perfect example. This the media grab on the whole thing, the hype, the top 100 guitarists, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all these different things, and then a lot of that will spread that influence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's subtle or not, people then use that as a comparison to say something's better than the next based on the pedestal that Rolling Stone magazine especially is on.
Yep.
Secondly, with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And look at the induction ceremonies. They have those big induction ceremonies, the Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look who's in the audience. It's not the fans.
There's no fans.
It's
It's all suits.
all celebrities.
Yeah.
It's all celebrities who probably don't even know half the music of the
And
bands that are
honestly,
there.
I'm not tapping ourselves on the back, but the fans are the blood, sweat, and tears of being able to get an artist where it's at. How many
Yes,
bands,
truth.
just like the stock market with all those like tech companies that blew up and died. Think about how many artists that just because they didn't have the right following didn't
Yeah.
make it. Like how many cult bands out there became so influential and successful and memorable just due to this following of
The Replacements.
perfect.
Yeah.
Nirvana. Nirvana's not where they're at if it's not for those fucking down and out fans that are there every goddamn
Yeah.
show, spreading that influence.
Even to a certain extent, the Misfits, too.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. They
You
sold
know?
out Madison Square Garden. They've never had a fucking radio hit. They've never had a fucking Billboard chart song. That's
Yeah.
all on the fans.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this also kind of brings up something else I want to touch base on. We've all watched Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve this year.
Yes.
And there's one thing that shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. The lack of rock artists
Of course.
in New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Now, along with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Rolling Stone being the media grab thing, I feel like rock and roll is like a dying art form. And I feel like it's slowly going away because it's like me and you had talked about before.
Yeah.
That it's more of an attitude thing and more of like a
Lifestyle.
lifestyle than it is of actual music.
I would like to know, because when we brought up Greta Van Fleet earlier and we talked about like publishing rights and the exposure that they get through commercial and things like that, my curiosity is there's only so many new modern rock bands.
Yes.
Most of them, though, have some sort of like public entity like attached to them in terms like what I said, commercials. So I'm wondering how many rock bands just aren't succeeding because they're not conforming to the idea when they have the opportunity to sign a record deal or do anything to move forward and become a limelight band.
Yeah.
That they don't conform to that, therefore they're snubbed out.
Exactly.
You know, because there are a lot of bands that you can go and research. Because I mean, getting on Apple Music and Spotify these days is a lot easier, which is great.
Oh my God,
Because
yeah.
then the eligibility to find those underground acts is awesome.
Yep.
And that's what happened with us with that with the original progressive rock band that I was in. Our music was out there. I mean, it was very complicated, and but it still had a hook in it, but it was really cool. and we got to get on these different
the streaming platforms.
and people who like progressive rock found it,
And that's what it takes.
Listened to it,
Yeah.
and downloaded
Yeah.
it, and
The sad thing is, though, if you don't sell your soul, like you're not getting anywhere you
Yeah.
want to be nowadays.
Yeah,
'Cause
but even with that doesn't even mean anything anymore. Look at all the artists
that's
that
what
are
I'm
out
saying.
now.
It's very sad.
ABC. I mean, New Year's Rockin' Eve, ABC. That's Disney, and Disney
Controls.
going to get who they want to.
That's true.
Get
Yeah.
the most people to watch.
Of course.
Music has become a consumable.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
more consumerism than anything else. It's for today's, I don't want to say millennials, maybe after millennials,
Gen
but
Z.
Gen Z.
yeah, it's, what's next?
Well, you gotta
it's the
think-
what's next generation. It's like, okay, here's a new song. Oh, by these people, cool. 3 weeks later, it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the term of the genre change throughout the eras because, again, when we talk about like pop music, like pop music for a period of time brought this up when you were on the show, was like Led Zeppelin was pop music. That wasn't just considered like, all right, that's a rock and roll. That was pop because it was popular at the time. So you get to see it now, the trends and waves that we're going through in terms, like you said, it's just whatever's comfort food at that point in time, whatever's going
and
to
it's the media
appeal
pushing
to the
it.
masses.
Yes.
And
That's
the
what I'm
media
saying.
is
And
pushing it.
that's why with
And it's
Rolling
what's
Stone,
next? What's
Yep.
next?
Yep.
It's a consumable.
Yeah.
It becomes
Yeah.
consumable. And the bands that have been around forever and have the loyal followings will continue to have those followings. But nowadays you can't break into that because of the consumable attitude.
If you're not going to fit the mold.
Right.
Yeah.
The media
exactly.
has
Yep.
the media has this formula, and if you want to make money and be a star, you got to do this. And,
Well, that's also
and you'll make the
everything
money,
in
and then
terms.
We'll
yeah.
move on to the next.
Yeah, when you talk about like advertising, when you see movies and you see, ads and everything else where it's like, this is what beautiful looks like. Like a girl will come on, she'll be
Yep.
skinny, she'll be like blonde hair, perfect teeth, big lips. And and every girl has the image, and you constantly perpetuate that trend and that vision where that's becoming the normal. That's what people are striving for because the media projects that onto you. Now music has done the same thing. They've shown what's popular, they see what's selling, and people will either do two things. They're going to try and break through in their own regard, most likely suffer because there's a lot of bands that have come out that just never like hit that peak
Yep.
because they just don't fit that mold. But like you said, if there's a big enough following, you can't stop it. Like these bands will still sell out shows. They will get big enough. Will they get deals to be able to play Madison Square Garden or anything like that? Who knows?
Yeah.
But also, again, that's the media.
Well, in a sense, everyone keeps saying about the social media thing, and the social media is going to make everything easier. It's more accessible now than it ever
Well,
was.
it's made it. Yeah.
It's made it easier to get your shit out there, but it has not made it easier for people to get on board or to actually bring people.
It's watered down the effects.
I mean, like even to the extent of this podcast, we have like no following on fucking Facebook at all because we refuse to put money into it.
I know.
Like I just feel like there's some form of like an algorithm, or I don't want to get like too conspiracy theorist about
there is.
but
You're
there's an
absolutely right.
algorithm that they don't want people to hear this kind of shit. Like, let's force feed them this fucking Greta Van Fleet bullshit because they're gonna eat this up, but let's not show them Red Fang.
Yeah.
Let's not show them Green Lung, but let's fucking put the Strokes on.
Because we already have Greta Van Fleet in our pocket, and therefore we can capitalize off the opportunity to create more marketing and create a bigger fan base.
With Google and Facebook, they control what you see and hear.
Yeah.
You could be the greatest band in the world, but if you try to type the band, greatest band in the world in the Google search,
Yeah.
you won't come up
Your
because of their.
The Beatles are going to come up.
What's the best new band? Even if you are, Google can make it so that your name won't come up.
Yeah,
If they
exactly.
don't want it to, or it'll come up far down the line. It's all the media. They're controlling what you see and hear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just comes down to basically what we were saying earlier with the whole like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame basically being owned by Time Warner.
Yeah.
And, Penske Media Corp owning Rolling Stone magazine. These giant corporations have just made it to the point where we're just going to consume anything because
We're going to tell you what you're going to consume. We're going to force it down your throat, whether you like it or not. When's the last time a top 10 song had a guitar solo in it?
shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
the only, I hate to say it, but the only music is like modern country. Is like real music.
Yeah,
it's
but
real
even-
drums,
But
real
even
bass, real
getting,
guitar.
That's even getting diluted to an
Yeah,
extent
it's-
nowadays. I
but
mean, we were
this
watching
gets-
that one game.
Yeah, it's got mixed in with other stuff. But
Yeah.
but you look at some of the big country stars. Country has taken a turn more towards rock
Yeah.
because there's guitar solos and there's
Yep.
drums and there's bass and it's like, whoa, this is like a rock song.
The lines are slowly starting to get like blurred now.
Yeah.
Well, you also brought up too when you talked about like if you Google search the greatest band of all time, they're the algorithms that are
Did you
built
just
in.
do it?
No, but I was trying to look up the documentary to watch. There's a documentary I highly recommend it. It's called The Social Dilemma.
Okay.
They basically break down how these algorithms and everything works in terms of why you see what you see on your Instagram, on your Facebook. Basically, they create an avatar of you based on what you search, what you like, what you talk about, who you interact with. They can even go as far as like, for instance, if there's somebody that you've been thinking about, like you miss or you don't want to talk to, and this actually recently happened to me, which was fucking weird. You'll start seeing that person pop up, like so and so like this, or so and so posted this. Like they do that stuff to influence you to make decisions. The other thing that they talked about, which I found very interesting because it was just around election time, depending on where you are geographically, your Google search will look different. So if you're looking up like global warming, for instance, in a liberal city, everything's going to be global warming is real. Like we need to help, blah, 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 blah. If you look it up in a very conservative town where people are more against it, it'll say global warming is a hoax, da, 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 da. Like depending on where
Really?
you're, same search, same wording, same, site and interface, whatever you're using, different results.
It's like when it's like on Amazon. If you log in as a woman,
Yeah.
and you log in as a man.
Oh, yeah.
you're going to get two different prices.
Yeah.
Yep. I've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that.
And it's crazy. I get to the point where because my search history is so dynamic, especially music, like I
yeah.
don't use Spotify, but if they try to do that end of year wrap up and give me, they would have no fucking clue what to do because it's so random in terms that it's almost like I try to like step on my own paper trail as I do shit. And it's not even intentional. Like I go from searching like, bloody Jason Voorhees to like nice stuffed animal for,
Cute puppies.
yeah, like it's just amazing though how these things work, and with music especially, what you're seeing and what you're hearing ultimately influences you.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about you and Van Halen, like how that really put a cap, like where you were headed personality wise in terms of
Yeah.
music, what you liked, what you didn't like a lot of things like will change that perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve was like the best example in most recent.
And like I said, what pisses me off is Foo Fighters put out a new song. I mean, granted, you take Foo Fighters or leave them, it doesn't matter to me. There's still a mainstream rock act that put out new music. Even Greta Van Fleet put out new music.
I know.
They didn't have them guys on the fucking New Year's Eve, but instead we got Megan Thee Stallion, who just got done putting out one of the most vile fucking songs of all time.
Of course.
That hit number one. And how does a song like that hit number one? But, anything off the last Foo Fighters album didn't even fucking make it into anywhere in the charts. But not even that. Like, we're talking on a much larger scale. Like, a mainstream rock song, an actual rock song, hasn't really hit the Billboard charts in fucking
Yeah.
years. And you can't even count Foo Fighters.
I couldn't even tell you the last modern iconic guitar solo. Like you brought that up as well. Anytime you hear a guitar solo, it's a song from anywhere from like mid 90s backwards.
Yeah.
You'll hear like Stairway to Heaven. You'll hear like The Chain.
I'm actually
you'll hear all
I'm
these-
trying to
That's
think
what I'm saying.
of like a
What's
guitar
the
solo.
most modern, iconic guitar solo that you've heard that could be
Guns
used?
N' Roses was
Like-
Guns N' Roses. That was mid '80s.
That's what I'm saying. You bring
late
Appetite for
80s.
Destruction in. Anything like that. You bring even Billie Jean.
November Rain's one of the most iconic solos of all time. That was on Use Your Illusion.
But what year was that?
90.
When have you heard anything from 2000 on?
Even Nirvana didn't have very many guitar solos.
No.
But I'm saying even just riffs in general. Like
Yeah.
you could play a certain
Oh, there hasn't
riff.
been like a legitimate riff.
That's what I'm
in
saying. There
years.
hasn't been anything.
Metallica hasn't even put out a legitimate riff since the 90s.
I couldn't
Let's be
tell you.
real.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah.
Like besides the Black album, what
I think
riffs?
Load is the last, not Load, Reload.
Fuel.
That's like the last.
That's a cool riff.
Yeah.
I'll give them that one.
That's literally the last one that they could use as a commercial or something.
Maybe like Avenged Sevenfold, but that shit's kind of butt rock
they're
anyway.
dying anyway. That's a very. If you want to talk about it, I don't listen to the radio that often, but that's still like their own following.
Oh, yeah.
How many new Avenged Sevenfold fans are coming out? Most of them are our age that's been listening to them since the late 90s, and everybody else coming after them is, around our age anyway.
But then
all the
here's
Vans
another
Warped
thing
Tour
too.
kids.
They keep like all this like decent shit out of the limelight, but then they got bands like Five Finger Death Punch
Killing it.
that are like the fucking biggest shit ever.
Killing it.
Like the biggest fucking heavy bands that have ever come on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Like how? Like I don't understand. Like please explain to me what this algorithm is.
It's the media pushing it because they know that people will eat it up if they keep pushing it at them.
Yeah,
While the other stuff it's too much.
it's just stupid.
Yeah, there's always a very strong, there's always like a stranglehold on genres during a certain time. Like whatever era you lived in, there was always a specific genre, like the whole disco era. Think about that.
Yeah.
And then think how quickly the media crippled that by new bands emerging, but that's what it takes. It's like, there's strength in numbers. It depends on wherever music's headed. But this time it's so hard because, like you said, with social media, SoundCloud, the way you can get exposure out there, it waters down the effects of any artist that tries to emerge unless they have that financial backing, unless they have those media connections and like the elitist, suits, you want to call them, which is the best way to say it. Like, unless you have some connections, like you're going to stay in that middling, strong support, however you want to see it, for your own self. You're never going to make it to that.
Yeah.
I'm played on the radio fucking 5 times a day.
That's when you see that most of these bands that play the smaller clubs. Well, it used to before the pandemic. They were all the alternative, the rock bands, the alternative rock bands. They used to tour and play all the small places in Philadelphia that Erica
TLA.
used to go see and Nicole used to go see.
Yep.
Really good bands, but they never made it big because they weren't the formula. That was, but they were really good bands.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you hear the music, go, God, these guys are good. These kids are good. And they're playing real music. This is real music. It's not noise.
Yeah.
And because of the media won't push them, and they have their Facebook following, and they do the self-advertising, self-promoting the shows. The shows are packed. They're sold out, and that's all they can do.
That's like my biggest thing when I was younger. I mean, Bill, you're familiar. Like all my friends were in bands like Decap Attacks, Chiron, Tube Disasters. I mean, there were so many good Kill the Evidence. There were so many good local bands, and it was so fun to go see them because you could have made them a big band, and I would have been listening to them in the same regard. Because at the end of the day, I'm paying to see live music. I'm not paying so much for a person to see.
Yeah.
Like I'll go and see, like I saw Deep Purple with Judas Priest. I had an expectation. Deep Purple didn't, live up to expectation, but I remember Judas Priest because they played really well. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm going for. I'm going to see live music of a band that I enjoy. And like you're saying too, like the underground scene, like that's what I miss in terms of like how I used to mobilize and go to shows. Because you're going to see some bands that, you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for to go see just because they've marketed it that way. You probably hear some music that you've never heard before, and because it's from an artist that's not recognized, most people will write them off.
Yep.
Unless you have a name that really sticks, unless you have like the media backing you, constantly putting your name out there, making you think that this is good, you're going to look at most local artists and just be like, ugh.
And it's funny too, you got bands like Metallica and shit like that, and Megadeth, they're like, oh, we're all self-made. Yeah, maybe for like your first 3 albums.
Yeah, and that's why, again, why a lot of people go back to the early work, because you can hear the raw intensity of like they were making music.
Literally up until Injustice for All.
Yeah.
Because Injustice for All was the last one that they did like without like a big name producer and a big name studio. It was the last one they did with like, like real raw shit.
Yeah.
But anyways, what do you think? Do you feel like we're all just mindless sheep being herded into oblivion with, images of Cardi B and Katy Perry and Greta Van Fleet? Yes. Or are you going to follow us and forge your own way?
Yes. Join us.
Join us on our social media accounts. Break the algorithm. Find us on Facebook.
That's the hashtag.
Break the algorithm.
Yeah.
Hashtag break the algorithm. Facebook.com/RATM podcast. Instagram and Twitter at RATM podcast.
Essentially, rage against the mainstream.
Oh my God, it's all come full circle.
Oh my God. It only took us 3 seasons.
Yeah, it only took us 3 seasons.
But summing up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if you were in Cleveland, you should definitely go.
Okay. If you're in Cleveland, though.
Don't make a special trip out there.
Unless there's an exhibit going on that you'd really like to see.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah. It's like going to the museum.
Maybe when we get inducted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be on hospice probably by then.
And make sure you bring extra money for the gift shop.
Yeah, your 35 ticket is actually like $75.99.
Yeah, I got to that gift shop. $124. What did I do?
I got a Hanes T-shirt with a print on it.
I got a couple.
Could have bought this shit at fucking Walmart.
Keychains,
3-pack for 10.
keychains, refrigerator magnets, and a T-shirt. $124.
I can picture you like your
My wife's
chest.
gonna kill me.
I got heartburn.
No,
That's funny.
it's cool though.
That's great.
So let's roll to our personal suggestions for this week. Michael St. John, our guest, what do you have this week for our listeners to check out?
I'm going back to prog rock,
All right.
and we were talking a little bit about concept albums. Jethro Tull,
Oh, yes.
one of my favorite all-time bands, even though they had to beat out Metallica that year for some God knows what reason. But early 70s, Jethro Tull. They did Aqualung, their breakthrough album. They were a blues rock band, then they started to turn a little more progressive. They came out Aqualung. All the critics, all the people, it's a concept album. Aqualung, it's a concept album. And Ian Anderson's going, no, this isn't a concept album. It's just a couple songs that we put together. And, he goes, no, it's all about religion. It's really cool. It's a concept album. And he goes, I'll show you a concept album. So he came out with Thick as a Brick.
Love Thick as a Brick.
In 1972. It's about...
It's 2 songs, right? It's just 2 sides.
Yeah, 2 sides.
2 songs, 2 sides,
He said it was a spoof.
I love Thick as a Brick.
A spoof on concept albums. He did a concept album based on a poem by an 8-year-old kid that was made up. And it's really good, this album. And that was just my suggestion because it is a concept album, but it's a spoof on concept albums, but it's really good music.
I actually just got a first pressing of that when I went to Jack's record shop.
Yeah.
I fucking got a first pressing of that for $3.99.
Oh, shit.
It's the sleeve's in poor condition, but the vinyl itself is great.
That's awesome.
I love that album. That's probably my favorite Jethro album. Very good.
Yeah, Tull has always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, Ian Anderson's a nut.
He's a
those
nut.
live versions of him with
He's
the
a
flute
genius, but-
solos are so good.
He's a genius, but he's crazy.
The garb he wears, it's so good. So good.
What do you got, Steve?
So you brought him up earlier. I'm going to recommend Red Fang, of course, just because this is a band that I really think should have been way more popular than they were. The album came out in 2011. It's called Murder the Mountains. The band is Red Fang. The song I'm going to recommend actually has a music video that I recommend watching as well. The song is called Hank is Dead. If you're a fan of Black Sabbath and Tad.
What year is that album?
2011.
Oh, okay.
You should definitely check this
We'll
out.
show you
I'll
after this.
actually
It's
show
really
them.
good.
Yeah, you'll enjoy this. If you're a fan of Sabbath and Tad, the best way I can explain it, you'll love this album.
Yeah, you showed me. I'm a fan.
Very good.
My suggestion for this week, I'm taking it in a totally opposite direction. 50 Cent.
Which album?
The 8 Mile soundtrack.
Okay.
Wanksta.
Okay.
I heard...
Wanksta, actually, you should change back on that because I think that song's actually on Power of the Dollar, which is his first album.
Well, it
before
is,
Get
but
Rich.
there's-
you're recommending the soundtrack?
Yeah, I'm recommending
Okay.
off the soundtrack.
All right.
A really good rap album,
It is a good
compilation
soundtrack.
album. You know,
Probably one of the best movie soundtracks in
Oh,
terms
fuck
of
yeah.
like that
Oh, yeah.
hip hop,
8
that
Mile's
era hip hop.
awesome.
Yeah, very good soundtrack.
which actually rolls us into our group suggestion for this week is to check out the Eminem classic film 8 Mile,
Yeah,
starring
I
Eminem,
think a good time to recommend it. too.
Mekhi Phifer.
Yes, sir.
What the hell's Kim Basinger?
Yes,
Anyone else in there?
Cheddar Bob.
Yeah, but what's his name?
Bob. He's an actor. He is. I'm not thinking of his name. Right
I think he was in like an episode of House or something. I'm
now.
pretty sure.
He's been in some things. He's been in some stuff.
Papa Doc. Oh wait, dude, he's the fucking Falcon.
Yeah.
What the hell's his name?
You gotta look up these actors if you're gonna go through this.
Oh no, I'm not going through. I'm just thinking now.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's another Twisted Tea meme. Where Cheddar Bob's holding the fucking Twisted Tea, like, and they're like, Cheddar, put it the fuck down. He's like, but Papa Doc had one.
Oh my god. That's perfect.
Oh man. But that kind of wraps it up for this week. This is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast for the books. You can find us on our social media accounts, Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, Facebook.com/RATM Podcast, and our website, ratmpodcast.wixsite.com/RATM Podcast. Until then, this is Rage Against the Mainstream signing off. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
I'm Michael.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening.
Hashtag break the algorithm.